We will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 7:24 p.m. Please join us as students from Bridlewood Elementary School lead us in our pledges. Charlie Potter and Anushka Kolakar.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Right now, we're going to have a moment of silence. The LISD community and family has lost 3 this weekend. We lost Fred Plackey this morning, Timmy Winters over the weekend, and then Midshipman Duke Carrillo. And so if we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you so much. Our thoughts are with all of those family and those campus communities in those losses. We welcome you all tonight. Meetings of the board are open to the public but are not meetings of the public. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation 10 days in advance of these regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions. In addition, the board also meets in regularly scheduled workshops and work sessions where staff discussions and presentations are given for many of the agenda items. This protocol means lengthy discussions or a litany of questions on every agenda item often is not necessary, and as a board, we should have appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of our meeting tonight. First up, we will consider action on items discussed in closed session. Would someone like to make the first motion? Ms. Cox?
I move that the board approve all personnel recommendations as presented by administration.
Ms. Timish is the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Would somebody like to make motion number B?
I move that the board approve Dr. Shauna Miller as Chief Executive Director of Organizational Learning as recommended by administration.
Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Miller? Would someone like to make the next motion? Ms. Hassett?
I move that the board approve Dr. Kathy Talbert as Chief Executive Director of Special Education as recommended by administration.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Hassan, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Talbert? Would someone like to make the motion? Mr. Miller?
I move that the board approve the superintendent contract as presented by general counsel.
Is there a second? Ms. Timish? Is there any discussion or comment?
Yes. I work really hard when I take this seat to vote my conscience. And on July 15th, 2019, as a board, we decided to give administrators a 2% raise from the midpoint. It has been recommended tonight to give Dr. Rogers a greater than that percentage to his contract, and I'll be voting no. My vote no is not to be seen as in any way my thought about his performance as a superintendent or my faith in him to lead this district. It is just that I simply disagree with my colleagues on the amount of pay, because I can't look an administrator in the eye and say, when we met in July, we said this, and now we say that.
Are there any additional comments? Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I think I appreciate Ms. Prosnick's comments. I think we all work hard to vote our conscience and try and take care of our teachers. And I hope our teachers understand that our superintendent's one of the lowest paid superintendents really in North Texas, or the lower end of the quartile. And we believe that it's important for us to make sure we do things to retain him as long as we can and be competitive and make sure that we're doing the right thing to honor him. And so this is as much about making sure that we take care of Dr. Rogers as it is making sure that we provide the greatest leader for our community and the people that work for him and the community that we serve. And so I would just provide that balanced perspective and certainly respect everybody's point of view at the dais.
Are there any additional comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries 6-1. Next up is recognition, student spotlights. Ms. Brim?
The Texas Computer Education Association recently named Dr. Chris Bigenhoe, Lewisville ISD's Director of Virtual Learning, as the recipient of its 2020 TCEA Advocacy Award. The award recognizes an outstanding and enthusiastic individual for their efforts to promote the organization's legislative program by advocating for positive change in educational technology in their local community, state, and national levels. Dr. Bigenhoe was specifically recognized for his efforts during the 86th Texas legislative session in promoting virtual learning in public education. He was honored and presented his award at the TCEA's convention in Austin. Congratulations, Dr. Bigenhoe. Thank you for all that you do for virtual learning in public education.
I'm actually not this short for once. Got to turn it up. My name is Leanne Lewis. I'm the Chief of Schools for middle schools, and I wanted to take a minute just to introduce Dr. Chris Bigenhoe. We are extremely blessed to have Dr. Bigenhoe and just honored that he is being recognized by the state, and it's very well deserved. So let's give him a round of applause.
Persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees must fill out a speaker's card. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda. First up is Kathy Duke.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Rogers, Madam President, Board. Thank you for having us here today. Thanks for bringing the podium out. I was afraid I was stand up there. I want to start out with a quote. A lot of people have gone further than they thought they could because someone else thought that they could. That is a pretense that we all live by that have been part of education, and that is what Miss Vernell Gregg lives by. Vernell Gregg, she is that person, an educator, not just while being paid for that, but for her life. Her desire is to assist children in becoming what they think could never happen, to lift up a child in a world where they may feel like everyone else is knocking them down. Ms. Kyer and I are here because we are recommending that Lewisville ISD name a school after Mrs. Vernell Gregg. Everyone speaks about women and what they can or can't do, what the roadblocks are, and what is stopping women from being the best they can, but Vernell Gregg has done amazing things as a woman. She worked and raised a family. She started programs no one had. She is an advocate here with LISD. She became the first African American on our board and then became the president of our board, and I proudly was able to serve with Mrs. Gregg. I mentor with her with Lunch with a Leader and watch her as she teaches these young girls about the importance of reading, having goals, and working hard for them. I watch her teach these young girls about what they can do as young women in their life. Vernell has made an impact in my life, in my kids' lives, and thousands of other students' lives. We believe we should honor her and her legacy by naming the Josie Lane School in her name, in her honor. Those students will then always know her legacy, and some will follow in her footsteps and be on this board someday. I thank you for your time, your leadership, and your consideration for this request. As a past LISD school board member, I don't make this request lightly. I know the thought that goes into it, but I think this is the best choice. And I want you to remember, every child deserves a champion. An adult will never give up on them who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best they can possibly be. So please take into consideration our request, and thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Mrs. Gregg.
Next up is Carol Kyer.
Good evening. It's always great to be on the side of the microphone, so I appreciate that. I could be the comic relief of this portion of the program, but I'll try and be as serious as possible because this is a very serious subject. I served on the school board for 15 years, and a good portion of that time was with Vernell. And getting to know Vernell over the course of the years, you understand her passion for public education, the passion that she has for any of the children that come to her as a student or as a mentee, and that you come to understand why she does this. And this isn't something that she just decided to do 2 weeks ago. In front of you, the packet that I handed out to you a little bit ago includes the letter of recommendation that Kathy and I sent to the board as an email. Also, you will see the list that Vernell has accumulated over the years. Her husband started the list of her volunteer aspects of her education and when and where she worked in education, the multiple awards that this icon has gotten over the years, not just here, but across the country. So you have to understand why we are here requesting that this a school be named after Miss Gregg. And we did, of course, we chose the Josie Lane School because that's the next one to be open, we believe. You have to have worked with her, which I'm sorry that none of you had worked with her, I believe, as a school board member, and got to enjoy her character, her take on things, her different take on where you might be coming from. But over the years, you have to respect what she's done and what she continues to do. We're talking 39 years just here alone of what she's dedicated her life to students, helping them learn, feeding them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when she was teachers because she knew that they were coming into school hungry, helping them decide where to go to college, telling them they can go to college, where before they were told that, no, you can't go to college. So this woman has you have to have such a respect for her because of what she's done and what she's accomplished. So I'm coming down here for the last 45 seconds. So what I'll say is that if you ever thought to name a school after somebody, this is the person. This is the person that needs to have a school named after her. And we respectfully submit the request to the board, and we hope you're okay. Thank you all very much.
Next up is Bobby Mitchell.
Good evening. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Denton County Commissioners Court, especially my county judge and myself. He couldn't make it back in time to come and thank Vernell Gregg, a co-worker with him, a laborer with him, that had labored with him in many, many situations. Our request tonight to the LISD School Board is to consider naming the new elementary school on Josie Lane, the Mrs. Vernell Gregg Elementary School. Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Gregg. Let me tell you the behind the scenes. At DeLay Middle School, many years ago, before we put AstroTurf on at the Lewisville High School, Miss Gregg was carrying her classroom materials from class to class on a file tray, cart. And she said to me, was discussing whether we should AstroTurf, LHS, and she says, as long as the teachers at this school, when they get ready to go to another class, have to carry each of their items of their classroom on a tray, she would not be in favor of putting AstroTurf on that at LHS. Another thing that Miss Gregg did, there's a family that was here in Lewisville that needed help. Miss Gregg worked with not one of the children, but all the children throughout getting them into school, getting them out of school, giving them money. Even with the mother, the grandmother, Miss Gregg was there. If you ever wanted to know about someone who gives her all, we're looking at her tonight, Miss Vernell Gregg. Doesn't matter who you are or what you are, Miss Gregg has been committed to LISD for 39 years. Through her dedication of school teacher, followed by years of volunteering, including 6 years as an LISD school board trustee, she has done many things, and there has many firsts throughout her years as teacher and a trustee. As a teacher, she started the remedial reading program in her classroom to help those with reading difficulties. She also co-chaired the commemorative MLK Day contest that grew district-wide with the art programs and essay programs. She put her students first and was always looking out for the student that needed assistance, not only in school, but as I say, also at home. Many times she called and said, I need your help. And I knew that she had got me into something. And so I said, okay, what do you need now, Vernell? But it was all about taking care of the children. And she took care of the whole family on some of those kids. As a trustee, Ms. Gregg was the first African-American elected to the board and the first female African-American board president. She was instrumental, in the AVID program in the district and the implementation of the first strategic planning program for the entire district. We respectfully ask the members of the board tonight to please consider having the new elementary school that's currently under construction on Josie Lane be named the Miss Vernell Gregg Elementary School. Thank you for your consideration.
Johnny Foster.
Thank you. If you would allow me, I know there are some other speakers who want to speak on Ms. Gregg's behalf, so I would like to yield to them to speak at this time. I know Ms. April Langston had signed up to speak. Since we're in that now, can I yield and let her continue? Okay, but I would, because I'm going to speak on a slightly different subject. And while
Okay,
we're,
so we can, he wants to flip.
See, okay, yes. If we could restart in April, if you could come up. Okay, got it, Johnny. Thank you. I apologize.
Good afternoon to Dr. Rogers, to all of you here, the illustrious board. My name is April Langston, and I am part of, wear a lot of hats, but tonight I'm here to encourage the board to do the honorable thing in naming the upcoming Josie Elementary, Vernell Gregg Elementary. There's a lot of us here tonight from a lot of different organizations. We have Macedonian Ministries that's here, I believe Antioch and some other churches that are here, concerned citizens and African American parents, the Westside Baptist Church Social Justice Committee, the members of Tau Omega, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority are here tonight, all on behalf of Vernell Gregg. She is a living legend to us. She has been kind and loving and generous in more ways than we can ever share tonight. One of the things that I've served with her on the various committees, but one, our scholarship committee at Macedonia. I've also served, there is a scholarship in her honor at the Marcus High School as part of the Marcus Black History Club. The most distinguished student is a Vernell Gregg recipient every year that gets a $500 scholarship. So those are just a few of the things that we have seen and we have heard on behalf of Ms. Gregg. There is, because we serve in our church ministry together, there is one thing I wanted to share. There's a scripture in Proverbs 3:27. It says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act." So that scripture is an encouragement to you. You have the power to act today. You have the authority to make this change happen. There's also a few things that I wanted to share. Vernell Gregg is our Proverbs 31 woman. The work that she has done has spoke for her. She sets about her work vigorously. She extends her hand to those in need. She speaks wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. So my encouragement tonight is to let you know that we love her. We honor her. She is our living legend. She is our Proverbs 31 woman, and we just encourage you tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. But most of all, you have the power to act, and we encourage you to do so. Name that school after Vernell Gregg. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Foster. Thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing that. First of all, I want to thank the board, Dr. Rogers, for allowing me this opportunity. I wanted April to go first because in addition to supporting the efforts to name the school after Ms. Gregg, we are here to do that as well. I would also like to take this opportunity to do what I call recognize, acknowledge, commend, and show appreciation to our district for their efforts in the area of diversity, inclusion, and cultural awareness and sensitivity. Many of us may not be aware of the efforts that the district has been going through to address these. Early this year, I want to commend Dr. Rogers for allowing us to meet with him and voice our concerns. Because as you know, as we look through the numbers and as are reported even by the United States Board of Education, when it comes to diversity in schools, as far as our African American population is concerned, there are some deficits there. So, but we wanted to speak to the positive things that are being done in our district. First, we want to recognize Dr. Rogers for allowing us to come and speak with him and voice our concerns. He then passed the baton to Mr. Bonner. And Ms. Bonner, I want to thank you for coming out, speaking with our groups, explaining to us some of the difficulties and the challenges that you're having. And not only that, one night he and Ms. Gail Prince came out and spoke with our organization and our parents to ask for input, and we appreciate that because it really sends a positive message. We also want to express our appreciation for the establishment of the Diversity Council, which is acting on these issues. I have a whole list here. I'm going to try to go through them all. The culture proficiency training that has been instituted, we appreciate that. We understand the value of that. This is a culture proficiency training that has been implemented on all campus for all staff and individuals, not only for the culture diversity and cultural sensitivity training of African American teachers and students, but all students. There was also a culture proficiency learning event that was put on in November. Awesome event. I attended it. Great speakers, and we commend you for that. Also, I want to take time to commend Mr. Andy Plunkett and his team and staff at Marcus High School and Marcus 9th grade campus. Marcus High School sponsored the 27th annual celebration of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I heard that it was well attended by school board members and staff. We appreciate that very much. Also, we want to recognize Mr. Skelton and his team for the awesome job that they did there. And I also want to recognize Ms. Upshaw and her team at Marcus 9th grade campus for the awesome job that they did in putting on the HBCU College Fair. We realize that all these efforts are going toward one purpose, but we also know there's a lot of work to be done. What I would like to do is ask that we continue our dialogue and that we would also be able to continue to meet with Mr. Bonner. And I would also like to meet with Dr. Rapp on other ways that we can address some of these issues, because we still have the issue of the achievement gap. We still have the issue of the mismatch in our numbers. So we thank you for your efforts. We want to encourage you to continue those efforts, but we also want to make sure that we as a community are continually involved in helping to solve those problems for you. Thank you very much and appreciate your time.
Ms. Sells, may I have a point of privilege?
Yes, Ms. Cox, reminder that nothing that was said was on the agenda.
Yes. Vernell, I know you're moving, so I just wanted to take this opportunity to personally, and I know the board might want to say a few things, but we do appreciate all the work and the fact that you continue to stay involved in the district with the kids. It is sincerely appreciated, and you're going to truly be missed, all the efforts you've put in forth for our district. So thank you.
I also echo that, and I'm sure there's going to be like some transportation between your new home and back here, because we don't want to not see that beautiful face that's been a huge blessing to our ministry, and just we cannot thank you enough. And I think just looking about the audience shows how special you've been to our entire community for a really long time, and I know there's even more people that wanted to be here that were not. So thank you. God bless.
Yeah, so I'll echo those thoughts. Vernell, I don't know if you remember the first question you ever asked me after a forum, which is, do you support vouchers? And tonight, if you stay long enough, which I'm sure many of you won't, I'm actually going to address vouchers from a national level, but we certainly do appreciate you, and it's good to meet your son and your son-in-law. Lieutenant Colonel, I believe, did a great job speaking and referencing Tony Evans, which I loved at the event, and it was a great honor, and thank you for all that you've done, and Mr. Foster's too. I mean, you guys have had a big impact on us, and I think over the last 5-6 years, we've really tried to partner well and be effective, and so we're going to miss you, and I'm sure, there is a shuttle too that goes back and forth now with Wi-Fi in it. Okay. Thank you.
So, Ms. Gregg, I'm the newbie on the board, not even quite 2 years, but this is how much you have impacted. I've already served with you on a committee, even before I was on the board, on the Facilities Advisory Committee. And so just thank you for still being around, and we sure are going to miss you. And it's just such a testament to you, all the number of people that are here for you. So thank you.
3 hours, you'll get back here if we need you to, right? I want to... Haven't picked out the tile yet, have you? Thank you for your service. I call you LISD's living legend, and you are. I think it says something that I knew about you living all the way over on the east side long time ago. I knew who Vernell Gregg was. And I think that speaks to your dedication to students. I think that has always been your focus, and I appreciate that. Godspeed to Houston.
You keep using those excuses for as long as you want. We like that you're using those excuses. I greatly appreciate all that you've done for all of our many, many students in the district. We are unable to say thank you for all you've done for our students and the staff. I mean, you've been a wonderful person to have on staff because you just lift up everybody that you're around, and you're a huge role model for me. And I can't live up to your level, but I will try my very best to do so. So I greatly appreciate all you've done for our students.
And I hope you're feeling the love, because it is being just thrown at you from up here. And I will tell you that not probably the first committee that I served on for the district, but back in the early 2010s, we served on the partnership committee. That very first taste of what possibly partnerships would look like in the district. And I will tell you that when my daughter told me the other night that she had got accepted to career out at the wastewater treatment plant in the colony, that's a partnership that started because of the work that you did on that committee and helping the district navigate how education was going to look different when we partner in our communities. And I can remember sitting at the table with you at those meetings and just wanting to absorb everything that you knew and said. And I'm just going to deny that you're moving. I have a feeling that maybe they're putting in that bullet train just for the Vernell Gregg Speedway back and forth. That's my hope. So maybe you can't move till that's done, and I don't know where that is in the phase of what they're doing. But anyway, thank you so much, and we certainly appreciate all that you've done for our community, our students, and our staffs. Thank you.
And Vernell, I can't not let them say, since I've known you longer than any of them. Actually, I've known you since you were a teacher, and you know what I've learned and what I've always cherished in our relationship is that kids were first, and to me, that's what this is about: is to serve students, and you've always exemplified that. I've considered you a great friend. She walks into my office like she owns it half the time anyway. And most of the time when she comes in, we're discussing about traveling. She's always planning another trip. So, but you know that I love you and all of us love you, and we appreciate what you've done to serve in this community. So, thank you very much. Okay, she wants a picture of that. Now let's follow that up with taper.
And we'll let you all leave if you want. Those that are coming, just go on. We're going to move on in the agenda, though, so we don't
Unless
slow down.
Miss Gregg wants to hear about vouchers in the last
Oh,
item.
yeah.
That's the last item. But
Maybe watch the video.
you can watch the video later.
Okay. So moving on in the agenda, we will now conduct a public hearing on the Texas Academic Performance Report. Dr. Rapp?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I'm going to ask Dr. Fitzhugh to come on up. We do have many celebrations to share in this report with you this year, and so we're pleased to do that. While it's hard to follow this up, we do have celebrations. We're pleased to do that at this time as well.
I always get to do the fun right after.
Thank you, Dr. Fitzhugh.
Good evening. This is our annual public hearing of the TAPR from the 2018-19 school year. Just a reminder, the TAPR is a report created by TEA where they put forth lots of data about our district. As a reminder, we've discussed this before. Our district accountability rating based on STAR testing currently is a B. Mathematically, we're an A, but we're a forced B due to some of the calculations that TEA runs. Our special education determination status is meets requirement. And so launching right in, we're going to start with our college, career, and military ready graduates for the class of 2018. Just a reminder, this data runs a year behind because TEA is still processing the class of 2019. So when you look at that, LISD had 72.2% of our students college, career, military ready, according to the TEA metrics. The state was at 65%. College ready was at 63.8%, and the states were 50%. And then our career and military was at 15.4%, and the state was at 28%. Our graduates that then go on to higher education. So the interesting piece about this is that this is data about our students that enroll in Texas. It's the class of 2016-17. So if students have gone out of state, they are not counted in this number because right now their metrics just don't account for that. They're working on it, but that's just the truth. So we're at 57% compared to the state's 54%. The piece that's really interesting about that, though, is when you go down to that next area, 75% of our students complete that first year without needing remediation compared to the state's 59%. So we're kind of close when you look at Texas enrollment, but then our students are way more prepared than the rest of the state. Our four-year graduation rate, again, we're at 95.8. The state is at 90. Our annual dropout rate is 0.7, and the state is at 1.9%. Our SAT and our ACT performances are above the state average as well. The advanced placement performance, again, this is another interesting one. So 28.8% of our students take the test, and the state's at 25.8%. When you come down there and look at the performance, though, 77.8% of our students score a 3 or higher compared to the state's 50%. So we're testing about the same amount, a little bit more, but our students are doing way better. Just a little bit of LISD data added in there to kind of mix up the measurements. 76% of our middle school students complete at least one advanced course. That's important because it says that they're reaching out there and trying more rigorous coursework to help better themselves and be prepared. 55% of our high school students complete at least one, and when you break that down, 7% of that is dual credit, and then 31% complete at least one AP course. This last year, students received 983 certifications through CTE. So the Dallas Morning News ran an article recently, and I wanted to go ahead and pull that in here just so y'all could kind of see before we launch into the STAR data that there are some limitations with STAR and the methodologies used to score and create it. And so really shockingly, research for the past generation has shown that scores on high-stakes tests have almost no relationship to the difference in instruction. A 2019 study found that model measuring teachers' effect on students' standardized test scores were only slightly more valid than if the same models measured teachers' effects on students' heights, meaning really the STAR test does not measure the effect that teachers have on learning. And so just a refresher, STAR terminology, there's 3 performance levels: approaches, meets, and masters. And so when you look at our data there across all areas, LISD does outperform the state in terms of how we perform on STAR. If you look at the meets performances again, we outperform the state in STAR. And then there for the master's performance levels as well, we outperform the state, and that's with a large majority of our students who use substitute assessments in the past not having their tests counted because they only count in that approaches and meets levels. Another piece of LISD data that we've thrown in there, iStation is the local metric we use to measure how students are reading and growing in their reading abilities. 90% of our kindergartners were on grade level or showed growth throughout the year. 92% of our first graders, 93% of our second, and then 92% of fifth. Additional evidence of student learning. So we administer the PSAT 8 to all of our 8th grade students. 55.4% of our 8th graders were on track to be college ready for math, 69.2% for reading, and then the cut score for the PSAT and MSQT is 430 to be college ready. Our district average is 486, so it's well above that. With that in mind, 70% of our students were above that 430. So our students are able to demonstrate that they are ready based on a wide variety of assessments. Staff-wise, more than 99% of our staff are teaching in an area that they're certified in. We have 2,294 employees holding ESL certifications. That's a significant jump from last year. We've really focused on making sure our teachers are certified to support our English learners. 283 of our LISD employees hold bilingual certifications. And then this is just a little pie chart that shows the distribution of years of experience in LISD. You can see that our staff represents a wide variety of experience, and so there's a lot of balance there. And then there's more information in the TAPR. There's an online version as well if you have other interest in it, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
And Ms. Sells, I would just say I appreciate Dr. Fitz you being here. She was actually sick earlier today and went to the doctor to where she could come.
We're good.
Talk tape her.
Not contagious. We're all good. Thank you.
Yes. Does any of the board have any questions? Ms. Timish?
Going back to the slide, I'm so glad you were able to talk through it because I read through it, but just the slide that talks about not able to track out-of-state students, we've got 4 trustees sitting at the dais that 100% of our kids went out of state. Is that not something that we can track on our own to have kind of like a sub-level that says how awesome we are, even if it doesn't reflect?
So there is a data group called the National Student Clearinghouse, and they gather that data. The problem is students have the ability to opt out of it as well. So I found that while I can gather a lot of our out-of-state, some of our in-state I miss, and so we're trying to figure out how we can mix that together, and that's what the state's trying to do as well. But yes, we do have the data. I have to pair it up just right.
And for some of the military and other, if they go out of state for some of that, does that also affect? Or if they get a certification and they go to work out of state, are we able to track that?
So military is self-reported. At the end of a senior year, a student indicates that they are planning to join the military. TEA is working on some additional methodologies with the Department of Defense to gather that versus self-reporting, but that's kind of where that sits right now. In terms of career readiness, really the way the state measures that right now is by certifications that are completed. The certifications that were available for counting were very limited in the 17-18 school year. They were expanded a little bit last year, and so I think that number will increase in terms of the TAPR number, but we need to wait and see how all of them fit into the categories TEA allowed.
Thank you. No more questions.
Ms. Hassett?
I was just wondering if you would explain to the board the change for next year for the EOCs and substitute assessments so that we know that there might be a change in the data as it comes across through, just so they'll know ahead of time what will be coming down via.
So we don't have an official statement from TEA at this moment. We just have what it's planned to be. They say they're going to release the official statement in February. But the basics of it is that we will no longer be allowed to utilize substitute assessments on the first administration for students. All students must attempt each EOC at least once before they can use a substitute assessment.
Change, because
That's a change, and so,
so it's double testing our students,
yes,
and now they also can't use that for accountability either.
correct.
Anyone else on the board?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Chief Dr. Fitzhugh, maybe.
That's a lot of words,
Is
yes.
that right? That's it. But at any rate, and maybe this is something I just need to talk to you more about, but I'm looking at the PSCIT numbers, and so 55.4% of eighth graders taking the math were on track to be college ready, 69.2 taking PhD evidence, reading and writing, and kind of looking at the achievement gap, wondering, do we have any, I don't see a comparison to where we sit with the state or at a national level, and so are there any activities that we have to get that higher? Is it unreasonable to get that number higher?
I don't know that it's, comparison-wise, because it's not administered across the whole state, it's hard to put a comparison together for that. That's not kind of a picked group, so to speak. The one thing I would say to keep in mind with that is it is kind of a norm reference data source. So it's meant that 50%, that normal curve, that half the students there will be in those middle groups. So the fact that we have more than half of our students meeting the criteria says that we're doing a really, really good job with that compared to their normal population.
So one of the things, I think, to Mish's point, when we compare college readiness at this grade, and then of the students and how they scored on PSAT, and those that went to college. For example, I can't tell you what my kids got in a PSAT, but I'm going to ask my wife when I get home, because I wonder if they did or didn't score high enough at this grade level. And so it'd be interesting to find out if this actually is indicative of the fact that less than 30% of our students go to colleges. The other thing is, do we have an assessment that takes into consideration those students who are not considering college? Because this is a very college-centric model.
We do offer the ASVAB. Don't ask me what all those letters stand for, but it's a vocational careers test that all students take in high school that helps them kind of look and plan where would be a good fit for them, and so that is available as well.
Ms. Prosnick?
So I just have one quick question, because it was based on my questions I asked in board book, which was about the college and career ready. And you said they only get to count one time.
Correct.
Who chooses which data point counts?
Well, so in terms of that college career military ready number, each student counts once. The denominator is our total number of graduates. So if they're college and career, they just count as once. When they break out the data by each category, they do the percent college, the percent career. It's just those two don't add up together to be the total.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, the public hearing on the Texas Academics Performance Report is now open. If there are any persons present who would like to speak to this topic, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. And can we get the presentation? Oh, it was sent. Okay, he just asked. Moving on to consent items. Would someone like to make a motion, or are there consent items that you would like pulled? Ms. Hassett?
I would like pulled, is it one or I? I don't know. I, 2D.
Oh, that was mine.
I, 2B, or D?
And dog.
Thank you for clarifying. Is that the only one that needs to be pulled? That was yours too? So Ms. Timish is asking for I3B4 to be pulled. Okay. Would someone like to make the motion with those two pulled if those are the only two? And I'm looking, that's the only two, correct? Okay.
I move that the board approve the consent item except 1, 2D, or I, 2D, I, 3B4, as presented by the administration.
Do I have a second on that? Ms. Cox? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Would you like to make that a motion on your pulled item, Ms. Hassett?
Yes, I move to approve item I2D.
Do I have a second? Ms. Prosnick? Discussion and comments, please?
I was just hoping Dr. Bonner could clarify, in case anybody else was reading this, what it was actually meaning, because it was a little wonky to me, so that we could make sure that everybody understood that this is just a paper change only. But
I will endeavor to not be wonky. So this is a simple change on paper. That's correct. February 17th is currently a professional learning day for staff. That will not change. It is also a school holiday for students. That will not change. However, we will, if with the board's approval, exercise one of the professional learning waivers we have to count those minutes as minutes of student instruction. That gives us an opportunity then to make May 21st a half day, last day of school, and we actually gain 240 minutes over the course of the year. Correct.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? It is just a paperwork procedure, correct?
Strictly.
I will ask, how are we going to, if the motion, if this passes, how will we communicate that that last day of school is a half day? How is that, what are those plans? Or you just tell the children and they'll tell everybody?
I think if we tell the teachers, that's all we need to do, I promise, because they will be excited at the last day's a half day, but we will certainly communicate it out several times.
Are there any other? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Would you like to make the motion on your I3B4?
I3B4. I move that the board approve consent item I3B4 as recommended by administration.
Would you like to speak?
Just wanted, for this one, it's to enhance the health science program, the procurement of a digital anatomy table for our career centers, and several of us had the opportunity to tour Garland, and I know that for those of us that had an opportunity to look at some of our schools, we all wish we could go back to school to see what these kids are getting to do, and this anatomy table is absolutely incredible, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities to show, but the kids can actually dissect like a full-size body, but it's all digital, where they can look at the nerves, the skin, the blood cells, how everything works. And so I know my daughter, who's a senior, said, oh my gosh, LASD is doing the coolest things now that I'm getting ready to graduate. And so I'm thrilled. I just know that there's so many times we do things and people don't get to hear what we're doing. And if you ever get a chance to tour our career center and you would like to cut up a body digitally, this will be a great opportunity.
Anybody else have any comments? And I was actually on that tour with Ms. Timish, and I will tell you that for me, I thought, oh goodness, it's technology. I'm going to screw it up if I touch the buttons. But I didn't, and you could actually layer the muscle, then the circulatory, and then you could take the muscle out and add the skeleton. It was amazing without being too gross. It wasn't. It was amazing. And just the learning that those kids could get without actually doing an autopsy and there's not, anything, but they can, it's my understanding that the teachers can go in and change something on there, then the kids will have to go find it just as if they were trying to diagnose. And so it was an incredible experience. They had to kind of pull us out of that room because it was so fascinating. So, okay. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Need to turn a page. Now on to information items. Dr. Rogers?
Thank you, Ms. Sells. Board, we're happy to welcome representatives from Denton County, that's Shannon Joski, and from the city of Lewisville, Kent Boring here to talk about the census. I've sent something out, but I truly believe it is important for school districts to take part in the education effort to tell families about the importance of the census. And as such, I do want folks to know we've been meeting with the city of Lewisville since November of 2018 to talk about the census. So in the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of communication efforts that will ramp up from us. The timing's intentional as the census process starts in mid-March, and so I feel that our plans are good, and we're always looking to be good partners with both the county and the city, and we'll continue to coordinate with them. So recently we were asked what are other surrounding districts doing as far as the census, so we actually reached out to them, and up to this point no other district that surrounds us has rolled out information. So as normal, we are sort of in the lead and going above and beyond. And so we're, like I said, very happy to have Shannon and Kent here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rogers, and thank you to the board for allowing us here to speak. Again, I'm Shannon Joski. I'm the Director of Administration with Denton County. I work with Denton County Judge Andy Eads and the entire Commissioner's Court. And I'm really helping the county lead the effort on the 2020 census and the role that the county can play in supporting all of our partners, whether it be municipalities or school boards or whomever, in how we can get as many people counted in our county as possible. I think we all know how important it is and what's really at stake here, but just quick few numbers. I'm sure you're all aware that in 2010, the state of Texas picked up 4 representatives in the House as a result of the census. We stand to gain potentially that many again, just, of course, depending on the numbers across the state of Texas. The federal funding is significant. $675 billion is distributed based on census numbers from the federal government. A lot of that money is for the schools. And so we know as a county, for instance, a very, very conservative number that is being used is about $1,200 per person per year can be allocated from a census perspective. So for Denton County, across the entire county, if just 1% is undercounted in Denton County, that's $10 million a year times 10 years. That's $100 million to our county. Now, again, the vast majority of that money does go to the schools. There's a lot of money that is invested in infrastructure and whatnot, but it's really very significant for us to make sure that we have the right count. We convened a meeting, the county, convened a meeting in December for all of our mayors, our city managers, and there's over 40 cities in Denton County. We included, the Census Bureau came and spoke, North Texas Commission was there, and we had all of our state representatives and senators, their staff were there. And we just, reviewed a lot of information. Several of the larger cities have complete count committees started. Lewisville really started about 1.5 years ago with their complete count committee. And the city of Denton, Frisco, some of our larger cities have the complete count committees already in place. Really, the biggest thing that we need is a voice. We need people to understand and appreciate how important it is. We need people to understand that their information is held confidentially for 72 years. By law, it cannot be shared with any other agency. There is no citizenship question on there. I mean, there is just so many reasons why we need to know how many people live in our area. And we have worked very closely with a lot of our cities and surrounding area. And Kent is here from the city of Lewisville. He has done a tremendous amount with the census and his initiatives. And so he's going to share a little bit about what he's doing. And we just all are partnering and sharing information. We do have a webpage within the Denton County webpage where you can get more information. We will continue to post data. There's going to be different brochures and PowerPoints or whatever people are willing to share. We're going to be putting those up there. We have social media calendars that we're sending out, and we're just really trying to work together, and we hope that we can have this board and this community on board to really get us, get everyone counted. So, Kent?
Good evening, Dr. Rogers, board. Yeah, as Shannon said, we are just, I was asked to lead our census efforts for a city about 1.5 years ago, when we started out with a complete count committee with the goal of really trying to move the ticker in the city of Lewisville. And so specifically with our hard to count populations, of which Lewisville and Denton have probably the majority of in Denton County. Hard to count populations include children, young children, minority groups, apartment dwellers. Those are all considered homeless, are all considered in that hard to count population. As you know, the state of California has put about $185 million into their complete count efforts. The state of Texas has not put any dollars into our complete count efforts, and that is up to the cities to bridge that gap in our school districts and our organizations to try to make up the difference there. And so talking about hard to count populations, I did some numbers. I pulled some numbers from small area income and poverty estimates, which say LISD has at least 4,342 students in poverty, between ages 5 and 17. That's about 6.5%. Denton County has around 11,288. That's about 7.2%. Again, those are children between the ages of 5 and 17. That's from 2018 numbers. 39% of Lewisville residents identify as Hispanic or Latino, which is another very hard to count and traditionally nationwide hard to count population. 35% say that they speak a language other than English. As Shannon said, over $300 million per year conservatively over a 10-year period with a 1% undercount. The George Washington Institute of Public Policy has said it's probably twice that. That's a very conservative number once the numbers actually get released, and as low as $1,200 per person per year, but it's likely much higher than that as well. A concrete example, Shannon mentioned Title I funding. I looked up our Title I funding as a county. $1.4 billion is given to the state of Texas every year. Over $11 million is distributed to Denton County. Currently, there's 27 Title I schools that I counted within the Lewisville ISD district. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that's what I counted. If 100 kids are undercounted at $1,200 a student, that's $120,000. It's $1.2 million over a 10-year period. Again, that's probably a very conservative estimate. It's probably much higher than that. Some of the things that we've done, I've given some things to you there beforehand. You'll see these. This is some collateral that we've produced just to kind of get you up to date for the efforts that we've made so far. Both of these rack cards are printed in Spanish and English that you can see here. The city printed these, distributed these out to LISD, and these were sent home with every Monday folder in your elementary schools. This was also distributed out countywide to over 500,000 homes in their tax bills to Denton County. That was a great initiative. We also printed both of these in English and Chin, and we distributed that to churches as well to make sure that we were covering another one of our hardest to count populations in Lewisville. We also have a website as well. We even created T-shirts for our staff and our Complete Count committee members with hashtag 2020 Census and I Count for Lewisville. We're asking our council and our staff members to wear these and ask, as people ask questions about the census, to really just be an advocate. I think at this point, we're really about a month away. March 12th is when people could start receiving mailers, and they can start responding online as soon as March 12th. And so really at this point, we're just saying really, and this would be really my biggest pitch tonight, is for LISD to make this the top priority, I think, over the next month and a half. It is probably one of the most important things that our folks in LISD can be counted, and the city of Lewisville can be counted. So much hinges on that, so much funding hinges on that, and people don't even know how much funding is hinging on that. And so I think, if at all possible, I've given a list of things, suggestions to LISD. I'd urge them to take action on those things as well, and really just make it such a priority. I think the words I use, just inundate students, inundate teachers, inundate parents and residents with the message of be counted, so that we can try to get an accurate count for Lewisville. I want to see the ticker move. That's really the biggest thing. I don't want to come back and say we didn't make as much effort as possible to count everybody in Lewisville. I appreciate your time.
Do any of the board members have any questions or comments? Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. So when you said that these were distributed to schools on the Tuesday, just in the Lewisville city?
Lewisville only, that's correct. We didn't do Flower Mound or Colony. It was only Lewisville ISD schools.
What you mean Lewisville City of
Lewisville created that.
Okay.
Yes, City of Lewisville created this. We created this. We printed this in Spanish and English, funded the printing for this.
So I was just asking which schools it went to.
Every elementary school.
In the city of Lewisville.
Is what I was told. I was told it was distributed out to every LISD elementary school Monday folder.
In the Lewisville feed.
Okay, Ms. Hassett or Ms.
Well,
Britt?
no, I still don't feel like
Ms.
my
Britt?
question's been answered.
Okay. Go ahead.
I will double check. I believe it was in the city of Lewisville, but I will double check that.
Oh, yes, I understood you. Correct. City of Lewisville elementary schools only is what I was told. 6,300 to be exact is how many were printed.
That's the students.
Of them.
Okay, so just, I want to tag on to that. So Vickery is not in Lewisville, as an example. So would that have been included?
It would
Because the
not.
majority of those students live in Lewisville.
This is going to be a question that I'll just have to defer on to the communications department. I was given a list of schools, and we printed as many as would meet the requirements for those Monday folders.
City of Lewisville schools. So if we need to follow back up on that and double check that information, we can, but we, in our communication, City of Lewisville schools.
And we would ask, I mean, we have this, we have all of this, we can do it. The city of Lewisville has a little logo at the bottom. We can do these without any kind of logo. We can put the Denton County logo on it. We can do whatever you want. And we would love for you to send it out to all schools and to all students, to be honest with you. Any electronic communications that you have outside of the city?
Uh-oh. We're in trouble.
Just coming to help out, I'm pretty sure when the city of Lewisville did those brochures, it's because it's city of Lewisville funds, and so they did them for the city of Lewisville schools. But what they didn't take into consideration is that we also have citizens in the city of Lewisville that's going to schools in Flower Mound. And if Denton County does it, we'll send it out to all LISD school district and all the school districts in Denton County.
Because I think that would be important, because you also have Lewisville residents that aren't quite annexed into the city of Lewisville, and we really cover 13 different cities, so I feel like this needs to be a partnership in all 13, cities and communities that we represent.
And we can make that happen.
Did Angie want to?
We also, I think we all know too, that we can really utilize all the social and electronic media as much as possible too. We will be, if you don't now, if you would please, like Denton County on Facebook and all the different, social media, and tag. We will be just really ramping up all of our posts on a weekly basis, and we'll get to the point where we're doing them daily. You can like them and repost them or share them. However you would like to do it, we will try to support you in any way, but we just would love to partner with you and make sure that we get in front of it as much as we can.
Let me go to this side. Ms. Hassett?
Thank you very much for this presentation. I greatly appreciate it, and I definitely think that we all need to try, since the state didn't decide to fund such an important endeavor for our state, that we have to do this as local entities.
Correct.
And for me, like you said, Title I funds, of course, huge for schools, and what we know is funding for schools is often very formulaic on how we get it, and it's often determined by children in their seats, and that's how we get funding from the state, including some of those title funds. But what we don't know oftentimes is the title funds origination is from the census data. Right. So that the federal, they create the giant funds largely based on census, and that's how we get our funds. So this is very, very important to us. The hard to count kids, we've been talking a lot about pre-K. And so if we get those hard-to-count kids right now, we'll have a much better idea of when these pre-K kids are coming to us and what their needs might be. So that's awesome information for us at the current time. And really, largely as a district, schools are really good at trying to take care of our communities. And with the census data, it tells a lot about the community, and then the citizens and parents in the communities are able to get better services if they're counted. So if the parents can get better services at the home or out in the community based on the needs that they have, based on census data, kids can get a better home life and more support at home, which then when they come to school, they're better off. And so the census in general to me is really huge to make sure that we're supporting our students and our communities well. And a few other things that I have been doing some research on that I'd like us to consider, and that might be harder to do. Newark, New Jersey, they trained parent liaisons on how to help people participate in the census. I thought that was a really awesome idea. Maybe we could partner with some of our PTAs and see if we have any PTA members who might be able to partner with us, making sure that we get this out to all of the PTAs in our district and all other districts. Our booster clubs should have all of this information so that they know what's coming down. And what else was there? Another thing that some of them were doing were they had some technology nights. And so if some people in the community did not have access to the computers at home, some was not just at schools, some of schools, the libraries, and city buildings, they had additional computers that people could come into. But I do know that a lot of times people in the community they feel very safe and welcomed in schools. And so anything that we can do to help those families come into schools rather than to a government building, no offense, Commissioner Mitchell, but they tend to like us a little more than the government buildings or in the libraries in any of our cities. That would be another great place that we could have some people who know how to help with the census. And I know the census also, they do 12 languages that they put brochures, so they have 12 languages rather than just the 2. I doubt they have 10. I haven't looked into that.
But they do also they'll have guides in over 59 languages as well. So it's guides, it won't be translated, the actual form will only be translated to 12 languages, but they'll have guides for taking the census in 59 languages as well online. And this is the first year that it's you can take the census online.
Right.
Which is, I mean, I think 10 years ago, that wasn't even an option. And this year, you'll be able to take it by phone, online, and by mail.
Right.
This year.
And I do appreciate what all of the district is doing. We have a concentrated plan, social media, sending out to elementary, middle, and district-wide, great links to all of the information that the census has provided. They just have got a good plan going on, starting in March, end of February, that we're going to start providing. But if we can start also talking to the PTAs and seeing how we can get parents to help engage other parents in the process, and maybe have some of these brochures also in the rest of our elementary schools. What can we do to make sure that we do have that hard-to-count population, so it helps us in the future and it helps our families for the next 10 years. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Thank you so much. That is really great information, and those are all great ideas. And yes, through the PTA or any of the parent-teacher organizations, that's a great way. People feel most comfortable in those situations. And the libraries, that's a great idea. That's an idea that we've talked about too. Actually, one of the things that Kent made was a bookmark with the 5 reasons why you should complete your census. And so, that could be shared and passed out as people check out books. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we could do, and, we would just love to help in any way, really.
Anybody else? Ms. President?
Congratulations to the city of Lewisville for being so ahead of the ball on this. But as you mentioned, some of the other cities are also on the ball that we also have students in. We actually have a school in Frisco, for example. And so I would ask the district reach out to those cities and see what their plans are, to see how we can partner with that as well as with the county. To Mrs. Timish's point, we reach over 13, we're in all or part of 13 different communities. And so it's important for every one of those communities to be counted and beyond. I would wonder if the iPads that our students have that they take home, if there's a way to push out that link to the census on that. Where's Mr. Colbeck? There he is. I don't know if that's a possibility or if that's something that we can do.
Yeah, technically it'd be pretty easy for us to do if we wanted to do that.
That would be great. Yeah. And the Census Bureau's site, their website, they have a ton of information. They also have, which is really great this year, they have a site called ROAM, R-O-A-M, and it is a site that it's interactive maps where you can go and you can look at specific tracks and you can see where the hard-to-count tracks are. It's really pretty cool. And they will have a live, up-to-date, up-to-the-minute map showing exactly who has replied to the census and who hasn't. So, I mean, there's a lot of information there.
Ms. Cox, did you have a...
Yes, I just want to say thank you for making this presentation. I think it is important, and when you announce some of the numbers, it is quite frightening to know someone may not be counted in a loss of funds that would go into our district. But I think the key word, and kind of Ms. Hassett, Ms. Prosnick, who has spoken earlier, have alluded to it, it's communication is the key. And I know the district is doing a lot of things. Commend you on the city of Lewisville for doing things, but I think we have to just keep communicating on, okay, maybe we could get those things without the logo and push it out to our other schools. So that's real important. Is Amanda the key point of contact with our cities and Dr. Rogers?
Yeah, and Ms. Cox, I want to be clear, we have communicated to other cities, and I think it's the city of Lewisville is a leader in this because they know they have a lot of kids that are more apt to not be counted. And so the Flower Mounds and the Friscos don't seem quite as concerned as the Lewisvilles, but we will reach out to them again. It is a joint effort. It's not an effort that, our principals, all they get, the district doesn't get anything from the Census Bureau. I mean, if it's important for school districts to be involved, then you would think the U.S. Census Bureau would send something directly to the school district. All they do is send 2 items to every campus in every school district a poster and a little booklet that really is all about, more about curriculum, which, by the way, is Common Core curriculum, which, of course, we're not going to teach. So we want to be great partners. I think we have with the city of Lewisville. I'm glad to hear the services that the county can provide, and we'll certainly take advantage of that.
And I'm happy to send all of those materials with no logo. I've already got them queued up. If you'd like that, anything you need, let me know.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, thank you for this presentation, and I certainly appreciate we play a bit of a subordinate role in this, but I think to your point that we are a primary benefactor. And so what I'm looking for is, and I know Dr. Rogers, we've been working on this week, is for us to play a bigger, more aggressive role. And I mean more aggressive. I mean, it just seems to me that campuses should have a poster that also has a device that people could fill the census out there, that there's someone at the office that's equipped to do that. And I agree with Dr. Rogers. I mean, Ms. Lasan and I were in D.C. and we heard about curriculum that went out, and then we found out that it was Common Core. And if you've watched our board meetings over the last 5 years, you know that as soon as you hear that, a lot of us are going to shut down. That said, it just seems like we could be doing more. For example, the Colony. I mean, while I appreciate Lewisville, but the Colony is also another area where you could get a lot of students that are forgotten. So, to whatever degree we can be more aggressive is what I'd kind of like to hear. And the other thing I'd say is, are there from your perspective, or Commissioner, from your perspective, are there groups that we could activate? For example, Bobby, Sparrow Collective, right? Sparrow Women. Could they help us in getting trained on, activating and going out and helping? I'm on the board of CCA, as is Dr. Rogers. Mr. Ball's on the board of United Way. I mean, I know Daphne's on probably your committee. I don't know of any plan to use CCA and train people to help with the census. And the thing about an organization like that is that they're used to filling out government forms to get support. And the other place they're used to filling out government forms to get support is at the schools. And so those two, I just think if we could be more aggressive, I'm not trying to put it back on you, but if there's a way that you see open doors to leverage our networks, let's go, because this is important. We want to help you guys, and I know you want to help us.
I think we could try our churches also,
Yes.
who would be very important. And our Rotary clubs, I'm going to give almost the same presentation on Thursday. Our Rotary clubs, our Kiwanis clubs, our Lions club, anywhere you have somebody that'll listen, because all those clubs have people from the cities and from the county that can know someone that can get them on board and get them using this information so we can get it out to everybody. I think we have to use every avenue we can. But I think churches is a great avenue. If we could train some of our churches, and so they can have the information when their congregation come in also.
Right. The faith-based community is very important in this process and in getting people to trust, and as well as volunteers. Again, we know the state did not fund all of our efforts, so we're kind of all PC money together to do what we can, but it is a lot of volunteers. It's a lot of volunteers. So, however we can do that. And the census is still hiring.
They are. And the city of Lewisville is hosting, I just want to say, we're hosting training for our area census reps as well. And so to your point, we'll be hosting several trainings over the course of the next 3 months. The U.S. Census Bureau has partnership specialists that operate within each county. We've got some really good ones within our district that have just been extremely responsive, super good partners, very knowledgeable, willing to come out to any event. They've been to several of our events at the city, and they come set up a booth, give information out, try to recruit folks for the census as well. So they've been really, really good partners. And so I'm happy to connect the district with those partnership specialists as well, because I think that might be a great connection.
And I think on that, to the extent that the district can get that to us right away and we can activate our social media network. I mean, I'd love to know when those classes are, because I mean, I really think, Commissioner, you know what I'm talking about with Sparrow and getting them trained and getting, using an organization like CCA where we have a computer lab, and let's start, Tuesday nights, come fill out the sentences and have some hot dogs or whatever, whatever we can do to be more aggressive. Well, I mean, just get people out, and I think, and the big thing here is to help them understand that this is not an audit.
Right.
This is,
Yes.
daycares, hospitals,
Exactly.
public schools, we all benefit from this effort together.
And Mr. Miller, the big thing is that finally the Census Bureau decided to make sure that citizenship was not going to be a question, because until this past summer, that was going to prevent a lot of people from participating.
And our nonprofit agencies, don't forget them. The Salvation Army, also Friends of the Family, Children Advocacy Center. All these nonprofit agencies have PD Place, have citizens coming in. So we should train all these people to help also, and that way we can capture everyone. So let's include everyone that we can that know it's a service organization.
Is there anything else? Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
And we look forward to partnering with you, and I think that it was been a charge for all of us sitting up here at the dais to tap into those organizations that we are all involved in and to making them aware. I think our PTAs, a lot of our campus PTAs have events, and if we can figure out a way to make that happen, we need to do it. And my church is in Denton County, and I know that not a word has been said. And so I think I will be going back and having a meeting.
Yeah, I included my card up there. Email me, and I will connect you, like I said, a partnership specialist. Every time I've asked, they've been willing to come to an event. I spoke to a Lions Club with 4 people in attendance. They were at Western Days as well. So I can connect you, and I guarantee you they'll have somebody come out and give a presentation.
Perfect. And I think that it's about the communication, but it's about that communication actually educating.
Right.
And so I think that is key, and that sometimes it does just matter to hear a voice that is trusted. And so thank you all. Thank you both so much. Oh, yes, Ms. Hassett.
Also for Denton County, because trustees are now starting to hear about this from our Texas organization. So if you contact the presidents of every one of the school districts, it might start getting a interest of other school districts who might not be actively participating and should be.
Yes, we will.
That might be helpful.
Yes,
and I'll prod the ones that I know too.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. Next up is our district improvement plan update. Dr. Rapp.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, this is our third update of the year between September, December, and now February. I was in a session today that was actually talking about board outcomes and goals, and we were one of the few districts in the room that provide district improvement plan updates regularly. And as I think about what I heard this evening, so many different departments and the work that's going on is reflected in our district improvement plan. I may not always have all the answers, but can get them for you as you see all the different departments. But some highlights from the district improvement plan update: we've had 10,837 trend walkthroughs completed. We had completion of the second cultural proficiency learning experience, and we heard about that this evening mentioned. We had over 100 participants coming up who will present their action research projects at the leadership cohort. And when you think about our graduation rate, as Dr. Fitzhugh talked about with the taper, our student groups are all above 90% except for our English language learners. And we all know that students learn at different rates. And so when we look at standardized test scores, those happen at different times for kids, right? But when you give them the whole trajectory of their career and you look at all that's going on in the district improvement plan, all of that comes together to give us some of the highest graduation rates amongst the 20 schools that have 50,000 or more students in the state. So I just want to thank you for your support and how we use the district improvement plan and continue to work to provide that information to you.
and I'm happy to take any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Dr. Rapp? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Rapp. Moving on, instructional materials adoption, language arts, 9 through 12, Dr. Rapp.
Yes, this is just a brief information item. Mr. Hood is here this evening, who's again leading the selection of materials for grades 9 through 12 in English language arts. Last year was 6 through 8 and the elementary, so Mr. Hood gets to go through it 2 years in a row. But this is just putting it on your radar that we have convened the high school committees. They're currently reviewing those materials, and next month we'll be bringing forward a discussion item to share with you the materials that they're looking at and how that process is going.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. Moving on, Mr. Colback, technology plan update.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sells, Dr. Rogers, members of the board. I'm going to invite Michelle Jacobson, David Coons, Chris Langford, and Dana Sons up. We're going to have a brief presentation providing an update to our technology plan. If you recall, our last technology plan, that was developed actually during the 15-16 school year, and there were two different committees that were involved. There was our instructional part of the committee, and then there was also what we call our community technology experts. And that plan was approved by the board in June of 2016. Ultimately, the items that were included in that plan we use quite heavily in our facility advisory committee, as well as informing projects that we're still working on in the 2017 bond program. A little bit about technology planning. In the past, that was a requirement in the federal E-rate program. So technology planning is not a requirement within that federal law anymore. However, it's still good practice to develop technology plans, and as I've said many times before, it really does guide a lot of our work day to day. Also, just as a reminder, as I said, the tech plan was approved in June of 2016, and we provided the board updates in February of 18 and February of 19. And in the process of doing so, last year, if you recall, we were providing some insights into what we felt were going to be opportunities in the 1920 school year. So what you're about to hear is our cross-functional team sharing some of the work that's been done in the last year. Michelle?
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. I always enjoy coming up here and presenting everything about digital learning with all of you. Really, when we looked at the original technology plan for digital learning, we focused on 3 different areas. The technology integration, so how does it enhance our student experiences, their learning, professional learning, and then digital citizenship. So I'm going to start first. Oh, I think we did it at the same time.
I think we're okay. I
Okay,
didn't know you
sorry.
had one. Sorry, I was trying to help you.
Very good. So first off, just that technology integration. I know that you guys are Twitter followers, and so I'm so proud of all of our ITFs, our specialists, and our teachers and administrators that are regularly tweeting everything going on in the campuses. So just a couple of highlights in elementary this year. We partnered, well, really last year, we partnered with Science to incorporate digital citizenship, 3 lessons from Common Sense Media in all of the first units, kindergarten through 3rd grade. That was a great collaboration of really incorporating that digital citizenship in a natural arena. Additionally, we strive to partner with our content administrators and facilitators to make sure, again, that we are bringing that technology into the curriculum. During the summer, we partnered with Math Again to really show how the iPads can be used for students to show their learning with manipulatives. In middle school, some of the things that we've been doing is really making sure that we are incorporating those technology application TEKs. Again, sometimes for our teachers, that's scary. So in all of our curriculum documents, we have clarifier documents in stage 1. So what that means is when you have a technology application TEK, you go to the clarifier document, and it really breaks down what that TEK is, the important academic vocabulary, and how it supports the curriculum standard that it is attached to. This past year, and I say year, I'm so sorry, really more last year, including part of this year, we had over 42 participants in the You Teach Blended Learning. The University of Texas of Austin reached out with this awesome opportunity, and so many of our high flyers, high school teachers, content administrators, Content facilitators have participated in that course. The course is not easy. It's housed in their Canvas learning management system. It's 30 hours, and really it takes about 3 months to do all of that. It's a lot of learning, a lot of application of blended learning, and so I'm really excited because our content facilitators and administrators who attended it, they incorporated some of those strategies in their summer professional learning this past summer, which at the board work session we showed you through the math Canvas activity. So professional learning, we last summer was year 2 of Canvas. Again, we provided support to about 1,800 secondary teachers. This year was a little bit different in the fact of we really tried to incorporate assignment-specific opportunities pertaining to the content area. We've incorporated those monthly session reviews for all of our campuses, and each campus principal along with their administrative team can decide how they want their teachers to go over that information. We have a lot that are doing it on their online Canvas courses, really getting the teachers immersed and them as administrators being immersed in it as well. They can do faculty meetings during their conference periods. Really, it's kind of up to that campus building principal. Digital citizenship course. Per the district improvement plan, we are expecting for our elementary middle schools to be common sense recognized in 2 years, high school in 3 years. So we have been providing some intensive support to our teachers who are wanting to go a little bit more above and beyond. When I submitted this, we had 111 common sense educators. As of today, we have 119. So small steps. I know that sounds like a small number, but at the beginning of this year, we had only 4. So that's a big improvement. We've also provided a lot of iOS-specific professional learning with the bond passing and our device evaluation. We really wanted to make sure that we were providing support to our teachers on how to incorporate those iPads through the use of Apple Classroom, which we modeled that for you at the last work session, Keynote, Pages, GarageBand, iMovie, and Numbers. And then I'm proud of all of our work, but really I think the thing that just has been icing on the cake for me this year is the support that we've provided all of our campuses with digital citizenship. All of our assistant chiefs are actually common sense recognized educators, so that is fantastic. We have, at the very beginning of the year, I want to say it was September the 10th or the 11th, we had Common Sense, a representative, come here and lead I think it was like 21 campuses through just common sense lessons and really provided support to each of those campuses to provide a roadmap. We wanted to make sure that our campuses felt supported in the sense of we have this expectation of being common sense recognized. We didn't want them to be alone. So we partnered with them. They identified their leadership team. We came together. Since then, my numbers have changed a little bit. We still have 9 elementary campuses. Bluebonnet, Garden Ridge, McAuliffe, Hicks, Camey, Bridlewood, Peters Colony, Homestead, and Liberty that are all common sense recognized campuses through 2019-2021. At the time that I submitted this, we had 3 middle schools, DeLay, Huffines, and McCamey. Briar Hill just submitted, and they are now a common sense recognized campus as of today. In addition, we've also had our curriculum writing teams. When we were looking at just kind of restructuring our digital citizenship curriculum, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just digital learning or our librarians in isolation. So we have brought some people together to kind of look over everything. We just got finished, again, if you're on Twitter a lot, we just got finished having our second session with elementary and middle school. So some of those important stakeholders who are doing digital citizenship on their campuses could provide us feedback. And I am going to turn it over, I think, to, I think it's Chris Langford.
Good evening. We've had some fairly large projects over the last year and a half or so with the infrastructure team. We finished the design of our secondary data center that will be built with the Josie Lane Elementary School. So that design is completely finished and is being bid out with the rest of the building. We've also completed the design of the first stages of our WAN mesh network, our wide area network, which we've discussed at the work session last week a little bit. That not only is the design complete for that first stage, but the construction is underway for the first part of that WAN mesh network that we're building. We've completed the data center storage and network upgrades here at LISDAC in the main data center. The rest of those will go in with the Josie Lane data center when that school is built. And then we've also completed a cybersecurity testing from an outside firm. We did a penetration test in the fall, and we'll continue to do those annually. And we've also engaged a vendor to do continual vulnerability assessments. So we get those every week, and so we're able to remediate those vulnerabilities that are discovered through that.
All right, in the area of technology resources, Dana?
I don't have to squat down to the microphone. So technology resources, that's your technical services crew. And our technical support specialists are out on the campuses daily, and they're working with students, and they're working with teachers and admins and helping them out. And so this year, with the year 2 bond, we completed the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade 1-to-1 device replacement, and that totaled about 12,500 devices across the district for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. Our classroom set iPad deployments for PK through 3rd grade were replaced as well in classroom sets across the district. We also had our district zone printing project that we completed across the district. Right now we're working on the residual value for year 2. We realized last year quite a bit of revenue that came back from our old devices that we collected last year. And so this year we're working on that we've collected those 7th, 8th, and 9th and those pre-K through 3rd grade devices. Those went in for residual value as well. So we're finishing up that project now. And our focus, we're going to continually focus on service improvement process and making sure that we're doing what we need to do for the campuses and the students and the staff, so that if there is a process that needs to be corrected or improved upon, that we can do that. Part of what that is going to encompass is a new ticketing system within our technology department, so that we can put some other things in place and hopefully do better in that area as well. Thank you.
David?
We had several projects related to the tech plan and in regards to data privacy, and that we worked on this past year. First, we implemented data integrations related to the ELA adoption this past year. We've got another one of those coming this next year, but we got all that work done for this past fall, so that was a lot of work. We enhanced the online course description guide. Specifically, we added some electronic approval workflows for course maintenance. That was completed. We also did some other functional enhancements and redesigned that to enhance for parents and students this past year, and we're going to be continuing to refine that. The time clock replacement project was part of the 2017 bond. We're about 2/3 of the way through that, and it's scheduled to be done by the end of March. So it will be done before we get to our next tech plan. We've been expanding the use of Laserfiche for document management, specifically with regards to student records and special education. We've done a lot of work on that, but that's an ongoing project that we're going to be working on for a while. Implementing Edugents as our district dashboard solutions. We've been working a lot on that. Got that out for the board, for principals have been using it, and so obviously that's out there and launched, but we're continuing to work on that as well. And finally, we completed the configuration of Laserfiche for retention policy management, and what that really was related to, we've been putting a lot of documents into Laserfiche for areas like human resources for a while. Our records management department went back through that system and made sure that all of the document templates had appropriate retention policies applied to them in accordance with the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, just so that we can make sure we're following all those policies appropriately and using that system to the best of its ability. Thank you.
All right, thanks, David. One of the other items that we had talked about is the formation of a technology advisory council. So trustees, thanks for your recommendations for the people serving on that. We have about 50 people involved in that group. We've been meeting. We've had 2 meetings already. We're going to have another one in 2 weeks. But essentially, what the purpose of the TAC, we call it the TAC, but the purpose or charge for this group is to be this sounding board for the district. So as we're looking at how we're using technology, as we're developing our next technology plan, thinking from different perspectives, and that's represented from groups of teachers, parents, people that work in IT. We have students from each feeder pattern, so it's very well represented where they can give us some feedback on areas that we got to make sure we're including in our technology plan, and can be that sounding board when we look at developing the objectives and action steps around it. What's been really neat about that, as we've been meeting with that group, we've actually enrolled every member of the TAC in Canvas. So we're actually using Canvas as the platform to dialogue. We're putting out our notes, we're putting out our meetings, questions, follow-up information, kind of our housekeeping for the evening. So that's been very neat, because especially for members of the council that aren't in the district, if they're a parent, they're actually kind of seeing Canvas as a student. So that's been a neat experience. And what we've been focusing on is reviewing really the state of our current technology and reviewing our last technology plan, and essentially going through by functional team, identifying areas that we believe are going to be needs in our next tech plan, and areas that the community or the council feels we need to be thinking about as well. Also, our current thinking is to align our next technology plan to TEA's long-range plan for technology. And here's why that would be a little bit different. So if you think about our old plan as we structured it, we really developed it around the committees that were formed, and then we developed goals, objectives, action steps around the functional teams and the goal areas that you just saw. And so, for example, in digital learning, there were 3 goal areas. In technology, there were 3 goal areas, and we had obviously several goals and objectives within each. What the new model is we call this kind of internally the house model. But essentially what this is it's really pillars that I would call 6 pillars around what common, modern technology plans should be including as you look at that for success. And some of these really have a lot of similarity to goal areas that we had in the past. And in fact, as we went over the long-range plan with the Technology Advisory Council, that was one of the recommendations from the group. Instead of breaking this down by functional team, building goals to the plan tied to this model. So we discussed it and thought it would be a great way to do it. But essentially, it looks at the instructional practices around flexible learning, blended learning, things that Michelle was already referencing. Equitable access is obviously a big concern that we've talked about at the board level. Digital citizenship, safety and security, that's really in the area of cyber as well as physical, and so much of that physical side really falls into IT as well. And then the collaborative leadership, having the council itself, plus what we're talking about at the board level. And then obviously you need a reliable infrastructure for all of this to work on. So the idea would be to develop our goals around those themes, and then obviously the objectives and action steps would be shared across different functional teams, so they wouldn't really be siloed. So our future, I already mentioned this, we're trying to roll up our sleeves and dig deeper into equitable access. We have a subcommittee of the Technology Advisory Committee. In fact, we have a meeting with that group next Tuesday, to start looking at, what are our opt-in numbers, what are we doing at different campuses, what has worked, and more importantly, what can we do to improve it. So we're hoping that can help inform areas of the plan that are goals and objectives that are within equitable access that we can help improve. We want to provide the support and the instructional best practices to promote our college and career readiness, leveraging, best practices. Michelle mentioned blended learning. There's elements of blended learning that you might use in a blended program or a virtual program that really fit well in a face-to-face environment as well. So we want to make sure we're bringing those skills to our teachers. Obviously, we want to continue to strengthen our cybersecurity and business continuity. Business continuity is, if something happens, can we still perform the business functions? We want to increase access to data and analytics for decision-making. And then ultimately, if you think back, the timeline of developing the last plan, one of the next big pieces to that was funding the items in the plan.
And so much of what we're doing from a refresh perspective does live in the area of bond funding, so we have to come up with some strategy around that as well. So our next steps, we're going to continue meeting with the Technology Advisory Council to draft our 2020-23 technology plan. Also, I want to bring awareness to the board that we anticipate bringing a year 3 device refresh plan to the board by April. Obviously, you know, a lot of our deployments happen in the summer, so to actually make that actionable and take delivery of those items for the next school year, we're going to have to follow that timeline. And then ultimately, we want to present and discuss the draft plan with the board during a future work session, and then ultimately submit the technology plan for board approval. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Ms. Hassett?
Ms. Jacobson, you had talked about the Common Sense Media. What is the rollout for all of the campuses to have, all the campuses to be certified?
Yeah. So in our district improvement plan, we said that we wanted elementary, middle schools within the next 2 years. So this was year 1. They'll have next year to finalize that. High school, we've been working with Mr. Plunkett in regards to getting together some high school administrators, librarians, and teachers to start looking at those Common Sense Media lessons. To be Common Sense Media recognized as a campus, you have to use the Common Sense Media lessons. So for our high schools, what that looks like is at each grade level, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, over the course of the year, they'll have to do 3 Common Sense lessons. Now, I want to note that's not the integration that we're already doing with the content areas. That's just above and beyond to get the Common Sense Media recognition. So we have our next roadmap session actually tomorrow in here, all day long. And then we'll provide one in the summer, and then again next fall and spring to provide support to those campuses.
Ms. Timish and then Ms. Cox.
Jacobson, it was in line with Ms. Hassett's. Can you just give me like an overview as a parent, if you had an elementary, middle, or high school, what would that Common Sense Media certification look like from a parent perspective?
You know, I think really what it looks like from a parent's perspective is you should be getting notifications from the campus in regards to Common Sense Media tips. One of the Common Sense recognition is that each campus has to do 2 parent events. So like, for example, McCamey just hosted a Teens with Technology event. You can also do that through newsletters or links to in your Sky Alert to your parents. I think part of it also is having your child be able to share some of those lessons with you. So for elementary school, for Common Sense Media recognition, 4th through 5th grade, they have 3 Common Sense Media lessons. We throw in an additional lesson for them to really look at the LASD AUP and device management and care. And really our expectation is for those elementary campuses and middle school as well to have that completed by December the 13th. The date varies. For this year it was December the 13th. But really that's what my expectation would be is as a parent is to be able to have a conversation with your child about what they're learning in digital citizenship. Some of the pieces is just data and privacy, intellectual property, making sure that you don't overshare online, a variety of different things. I think we've shared some of that with the board before. But again, also seeing that communicated from campus administration and teachers as well.
Just a quick follow-up. So if you are 4th or 5th grade, what class do they learn this in?
So it varies by campus. Our library media services, our librarians, have been instrumental in providing that support. Some campuses, they do a rotation through the librarian. Other campuses really want to make sure their teachers are teaching it with their children. There's not a district expectation on how that's taught. It's just based on what the campus administration and what that campus wants.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Yes, Ms. Hassett.
Also, Common Sense Media, they're very, very active on social media. So I encourage all parents to actually just follow whatever, on whatever platform, multiple platforms, and it's a wealth of information for you to engage with your students, personally, and if something's coming out and something bad, they'll let you know right away. So it's a really good platform for parents to start engaging with, too.
Absolutely. They've redone a lot of their lessons, so they're much more modern. So they're engaging to the students. Last year, they shared out a Common Sense Media kind of campaign. It had Will Ferrell in some advertisements of a device-free dinner. So Common Sense Media, I think, is very cutting edge. They're a nonprofit organization, but they very much look at what is appealing to children and not just dry common digital citizenship things.
Ms. Cox?
Well, I want to start off, Mr. Colbeck, by thanking you and your team for doing a fantastic job continuing to not only provide the digital citizenship, but the security, the network increases that you're providing on our campuses. So thank you so much to you and your team. But I actually had 3 questions, so whoever wants to answer them. The first one is, what has the feedback been on the district zone printing project?
Dina, go ahead.
I'll try to answer that. I think across the board, there have been, we did a survey, and there have been some that have not taken the devices on some of the campuses. So they've chose to either go paperless or not use the printers and use maybe copiers in the campuses. So we're about 100% on switching them out. Some of those we were waiting to finish up with if they had supplies and those kind of things. We weren't switching those out until they were finished with that, so we weren't wasting some of that extra toner and things like that. But I think overall, as far as the ones that did receive them, I think they're working well.
Think there's been more efficiency, or?
I think there has. Okay. I don't know that we've had them in place long enough to, with the reports, I mean, and the testing that we did before when we did the RFP, and we tested and calculated all that out, yes, it is going to be a great savings in money. But we've only had them in place for a certain amount of time, so I don't think there's long enough to really gauge it. But we will. We will.
Okay. My second question is on the Technology Advisory Council. I'm really excited about that, but will we be getting a report as the board on what the feedback has been since we're not attending the meetings?
Good question. We
Would
can.
like that.
I can put something in our weekly board packet, our weekly update. I think, there might be some opportunity at the end as we present the draft plan. I'm hoping we can have a couple people from the council be here when we do it, but I think leading up to that, I can try to inform you that way through the board packet.
Yeah, it would just be nice to hear, what the feedback is from the committee.
Yes, I mean, so I can tell you verbally right now, so far it's been very, very good. In fact, as we have our meetings, we use kind of an open discussion forum in Canvas to solicit some feedback, and I think the committee's been, the comments have been very positive. The fact that we have put this council in place, that as we're kind of unpeeling what we're doing with technology, I think they're all learning and are surprised maybe at times on what we're doing. So overall, I think the feedback has been very positive.
Great, thank you. And my last question, I would not be remiss, because we all know I love ePortfolio so much. Just kidding. So in the digital citizenship where they have to check for the elementary, is the district looking at some options besides ePortfolio, and why? I mean, I've heard this Canvas mentioned several times and how wonderful, how we're utilizing it and all different things. What are some other opportunities that don't have to continue?
So the digital citizenship, just to clarify, that's really taught through the Common Sense Common Sense Media lessons. Our 5th and our 7th graders are asked at the very end, like their culminating activity, to upload an artifact and then to put a reflection. We have been looking at some other pieces with Canvas. Canvas they do have a free portfolio piece. That's not something that they're known for. Looking at it, there are some things that would not work for LISD. However, they do have some other products, one being Portfolium, that we are looking into. And then through our counseling, our Choices 360, there's also a ePortfolio piece with that as well. So we are investigating to see if there's something that is a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more likable by our teachers and our students as well.
It just seems that we are utilizing this Canvas program. I mean, I personally love it. It's one place for me to go to see all of my child's work, and that we're continuing to utilize still other things when, it would be nice if we could use the product to its full capacity.
Absolutely. Right now, just to clarify, middle school and secondary, of course. Elementary, we do have some pilot campuses, piloting Canvas. We're just not to that point
Right.
of rolling it
I
down to
understand.
elementary.
Are there any other questions or comments? No? Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you.
Moving on, we're going to have a National School Boards Association Advocacy Institute update by Mr. Miller and Ms. Lasan. Mr. Miller, are you up first, or Ms. Lasan?
Thank you. I'll try to make this brief because there was a lot of information, as you know, at these conferences. There's just so much information that they give us, and most of these that we attended, we have PowerPoints that we can share with you guys if there's a particular thing you're interested in. The first thing I wanted to touch on is NASBAC, which is the National School Boards Association National School Boards Action Center, which is a part of NASBA. They did a survey that was a 2020 education poll of about 1,000 or so likely voters, and it had to do with what your opinion was on charter schools, what your opinion was on public education, that type of thing. And they were pretty pleased with themselves with the results of this survey. But it was interesting. So we were able to text and get the results sent to us. So I have it, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Miller has it too, that we can share with you guys. The next thing that I was going to talk about was I attended something called Developing 21st Century Life Skills, which, again, as I have learned, coming to some of these things, LISD is really kind of ahead of the ball in a lot of these things. So they did talk about a digital learning day, and I think I almost laughed because I think he said something about challenging teachers to do something digitally, and I was like, okay, really? But, so again, LISD is so ahead of things, but still, it's always kind of good to get a pulse on what's going on in the nation and not just our little area of the world. Now this one, you got to bear with me because we didn't have a PowerPoint. It was just notes that I took. But we did hear from the FCC commissioner. Her name is Jessica Rosenworcel. She was really interested and really gung-ho. I think she was appointed by President Obama, but she was reappointed by Trump, which that personally, impressed me with, kind of both ends of the political spectrum. They both like this lady, so I thought that was pretty great. So one of the things that I think, and probably the reason why they had her there for us was that she has kind of coined this term called the homework gap. And she was talking about that 7 out of 10 teachers assign homework that needs the internet. And so that gap is, and she also, this is something else that I wrote down, is 1 in 3 have no internet at home. And so that is the homework gap. She says 12 million kids live in this homework gap. And so she is, I also wrote down here Digital Equity Act. I think that is something that they are, a law that they're working on, helping to get more Wi-Fi access to kids. She was talking about an idea that she had about, she said, we're about to auction off all these 5G airwaves and things, and she would love to use some of that money towards some things like this. But that's her. So I think that was something that she was kind of hinting at that we could all advocate for. Then a couple of people did pipe up with some interesting things, some things that won't really apply to us. But there was a district out in rural Texas that was talking about putting Wi-Fi routers, on school buses so that kids who sit on the bus for an hour, going to and from school can do their homework in the bus, and that they had had some success with that. I don't really think that applies to us. We don't have kids on buses quite that long, but still, we might, okay. So that was an interesting thing. The other thing that I would love to see our district do is, another example they gave was in areas of kids who don't have Wi-Fi or, access to the internet at home, is a district had made a map of safe spots in the area where kids could go to use the internet. Churches, Starbucks, McDonald's, whatever it is, obviously I think it would be good to get permission from the business. But, I thought that was a pretty neat idea as well. Mr. Colbeck, don't we hand out routers that kids can check out in libraries and such? Hotspots?
Yeah, in 9 through 12, we're participating in the Sprint 1 Million project.
Yes,
And then in
yeah.
our handful of middle schools, we can check them out through the library.
Right, so they mentioned that, again, we are already doing that. But, so that was, to me, her presentation was pretty interesting. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is IDEA, which I think most people in this kind of room know what that is, but it's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And again, I think this is probably something that this particular, NASBA has been particularly, advocating for years. But the couple of things that they brought up is that Congress has not updated the law since 2004, or has reached federal funding promise, which, when the law was put into place, they promised to fund it fully, and they never have. Let's see. The Congress promised to provide 40% of the extra cost of special education, and, they never have, and they are estimating that the federal government is only covering approximately 14.6 of the additional costs. And again, we saw a whole hour-long presentation on this, so I won't, go into it too much. But those are some of the highlights of what I was going to cover. So, Mr. Miller, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to cover 4 topics here real quick. One is Espinosa versus Montana, which has to do with vouchers. I'm going to talk about recruiting, retaining great teachers, creating safe and healthy schools, and the vaping epidemic, which will probably be what I spend most of my time on. One of the key legislation, the Supreme Court actually just heard a case called Espinosa versus Montana. It's actually the Montana Department of Revenue. This is a particularly interesting case because it's a family that's requesting that monies be used for private institutions, in this case, religious institutions, religious schools. And I think that, just to be clear for those who are here or those that are watching, I don't think any of us reject the support of schools that are private and can teach a Christian worldview or alternative worldview if it's something else. The issue fundamentally comes down to the use of public funds to support these organizations. And so in this case, which the Supreme Court has already heard, the issue is, does it violate the religion clause or equal protection clause of the United States Constitution to invalidate a generally available and religiously neutral student aid program simply because the program affords students the choice of attending religious schools? Of course, Thomas Jefferson said a general diffusion of knowledge and being essential for the rights and liberties. It's important to have a public education. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Supreme Court rules in this. We heard a lot about the type of court this is, the Roberts Court, and messages sent between Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the Supreme Court, or the Chief Justice, in the questions. But an interesting law, and of course we all know that our Secretary of Education is from Michigan. Michigan actually had a law in 1970 that said, and the electorate adopted a change to the state constitution to prohibit aid to non-public institutions. However, in 1971, and the Supreme Court said it interrupted that provision in 1971 in another case to mean the state could provide funding that was incidental to private school support and maintenance. What does this mean? This could mean things like a playground or additional bathrooms or things that were considered items of safety. And the risk for us is, let me speak to the risk of those who support private public Christian education is that when you take those federal dollars, you are obligated to something. So you'll be obligated in Texas to STAR testing. You'd be obligated to ESSA and some other federal level requirements. And so this case is going to be particularly unique. Two-thirds of the court is Catholic, and so that is considered to possibly play into the ruling on that, but it's something that we're watching very closely. And of course, NSB has written an amicus brief on that on our behalf, and so expect more in that area, but certainly watch it. I think they'll come out in this summer. They'll come out with that ruling. It's a very important ruling because you'll see states tend to follow, and of course our biennial would start in January. So the next item is teacher shortages, and I'm just going to spend just a couple seconds on this because actually this is an area where I think in LISD we have been, as a board, in the constitutional role that we have, we've been well informed by our staff on the issues of shortages. We know that there's a dual issue. That one is we have less kids going to college to be teachers, and that is creating a shortage in the supply and demand model. There's also an issue of 50% of teachers across the country leave the profession within the first 5 years. And then thirdly, it's an issue of longer-term teacher retention. But at a national level, by the way, 50% of teachers are alternative certifications at this point. That's a very high number when you think about it. So again, they're not going to school primarily for education, but they may be coming back, and you see a little bit different dynamic taking place. But in 2017, 2018, for example, more than 40 states reported shortages of STEM teachers, more than 40 states reported shortages in special education teachers, more than 30 reported shortages in CTE teachers, and we know in the state of Texas, CTE is a very important set of curriculum because not every student is college bound. And then of course, as it relates to English language instruction, another area where big shortages. And so what does that ultimately mean to us? It ultimately means that increased class sizes, canceling classes, canceling the amount of classes that are offered in schools, use short-term substitutes, where we have to train those substitutes on things like safety and security and curriculum and meeting teaks and depending on the topic, whether they are teaching classes that ultimately are high-stakes testing classes that are requiring a proctor, and then assigning teachers from other fields. All of those become issues. And so there's kind of four main factors that influence teacher recruitment today: compensation, preparation, mentoring, introduction, and the teaching conditions. And I think some will say the teaching conditions are just getting tougher. Not in our district per se, but they're getting tougher, especially when you start to look at rural America and the compensation that's associated with that. So you will hear parties talk about getting every teacher to $60,000, or I think you heard our speaker said last year, getting every classroom teacher to $100,000. And that's good talk and rhetoric in political campaigns. It doesn't materialize when it comes down to the actual funding that's allocated. The third area is the Center for Safe Schools. The Center for Safe Schools. So again, an area where I think we have done a really good job. Well, we've just done a really good job. So this would be four areas. Infrastructure. So Mr. Garrett's here. This is just kind of the normal things you would see around infrastructure. Things that we've done in our schools, which we won't talk about, but things we've done to secure our campuses and continue to do to secure our campuses. I think now again, this would be an area where under Espinoza versus Montana, you'd want to be careful, or in the Michigan suit, because you could say that a private school could receive funds for safety and security, and those are tax dollars, and then they would have to comply with certain regulations. So, that's again where you get into some issues. Crisis and emergency management. I think again, if we, some of us have seen the inner sanctum and the video or the TVs and everything. We just had a potential weather event here, and I know, Matt, you guys were watching that stuff, so I think we feel good there. Cybersecurity was brought up in this, and I think you got your team, Brian, that's left, and they talked about this. A lot of schools have been targets for this, and we have done well in this area. I think we've even gotten some recognition, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll continue to need to work on, being diligent here, and Kathy will like this, but the whole child health. I mean, this is again an area where we continue to provide great programs for parents. It would be nice to see more parents than actual presenters in these meetings. And so we need to continue to get the message out that when it comes to whole child, and this gets into mental health and social emotional things, that LISD is actually, in the last couple of years, we have accelerated our work here in this, and we are, I think, doing a phenomenal job. The issue is how do we increase engagement, which is not necessarily on the department per se, but it's something that we all own in trying to get that out there. The last item here, and this became very personal to me, but which I'll explain, but is the vaping epidemic. So we had a law firm present to us, and there are school boards, state school boards, like the Arizona State School Board, and I think New Mexico is attaching themselves to this. But if you look at the Juul epidemic, and of course we modified our policies last year, I think, to include vaping, and then we added specifically Juul. And why would that be? If you look at 1970, 29% of teenagers used tobacco. That dropped to about 2.9% of the use of cigarettes, 2.9% in 2016, 2017. And then something big happened. That's when Juul became its own company. And Juul was intended to be for smokers to stop smoking. But one of the things that Juul did was started marketing to internet influencers, and that became the epidemic. And so let me just read some statistics, and these are from different sources. 29% of teens, and I already talked about that, the 29% of teens in the 1970s. The CDC reports that more than 20% of high schoolers are vaping. In 2017, 28% of 12th graders were vaping. In 2018, 37% of 12th graders were vaping. Juul pad has equivalent nicotine of 1 pack of cigarettes. So 1 Juul pod. Colorful design and sweet, fruity flavors attract kids. The use of internet influencers, I'm going to come back to that in a second. We saw a video on this. You see more, so why would school boards at a state level be interested in suing Juul? Well, you start to get kids that are staying home because of asthma, cardiopulmonary issues, days out of school. That requires homebound services. There's an increased cost that goes along with this for school districts. So there's a law firm in Kansas City that's representing those school districts. The flavors are the key to bringing the kids to this. They think the flavors are the big thing, and of course, the nicotine. The CEO of Juul, this is what's interesting, CEO of Juul agrees that they have not done the long-term longitudinal tests of the side effects they need to do. So nobody knows what really the long-term effects are. We're starting to see the short-term, but we know that cities like San Francisco are starting to ban the sales. I talked about the Arizona School Board. The FDA is preparing to review the impact of e-tobacco and other nicotine products here shortly. And, of course, we in LISD are starting to see increased mandatory placements because of products like this. And to that point, I would say, Dr. Rogers, expect to see this on our agenda item soon. I think Ms. Cox is going to support me on that, but we'll talk some more about vaping. And are there other things that we can help do with the district? There was a video that was shown in this session, and here we are sitting in Washington, D.C., and as I'm watching the video, I noticed in the video someone that I knew. They were showing video influencers, and I thought I knew her, and when I got home, I showed the video to my wife. It was a short clip of a girl who was a video influencer. This is a girl that many of you know. that we were involved in her funeral in September of 2019. She died 10 days before her 20th birthday. She spent her time in LISD until she was her sophomore year, and then after that got to become an influencer and went to a local charter school. And she was used as part of the Jewel internet influencers because she was an internet influencer, and she is deceased. I spoke to the law firm this morning, and they had done a lot of research on her by the time I called them last week. And I think what you're going to see is an investigation into what is happening to the influencers. These are not just kids that are using these devices that they're cool, and then there's no consequence. The consequence of these things, the chemicals that are in them, nicotine by itself is not really something that causes cancer. It interacts with cancerous agents, and so this is a big deal that carries a big cost and a big consequence. And I think back to, when I first ran for school board, I ran on some other issues that had to do with substance abuse. This is equaling some of the same statistics that we saw back then. So expect more on this. I think it's something we're all very interested in, understanding what we can do to help the district, that we can help stem it, that we can help communicate with our communities. If there's and I know there are a lot of laws changing on how old you can be to buy Juul and that type of thing, but I would just say expect more on this. And other than that, I agree with Ms. Lasan. There are just a lot of things that we do really, really well. And I sent you all that email to confirm that, but always some little things that we learn at these, because we spend good money on behalf of the taxpayers to go represent ourselves. And of course, it's there was a lot going on in Capitol Hill, so we didn't get access to as many of the legislators as might have been normally available to us, should there not have been some type of big senatorial hearing going on that many of you know about. But other than that, it was an honor for us, I think, to represent the district and the staff, and hope you find not just this update valuable, but the updates that we're going to provide in more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Miller and Ms. Lasan. And I do want to point out that, and I want to thank the Hebron Ninth Grade Center. As a member of the Texas PTA Field Service Representative Committee, I knew of an initiative that the Texas PTA was doing on the vaping prior to them pushing it out to our councils, and I contacted our council, and I contacted the administration there at Hebron, and they were very accommodating and had already offered the ninth grade centers the lecture room, and there was seat 75 people. We would like to fill that 75 and have to offer it at another location within the district, but that will be on February the 25th at noon. We have a workshop. We already had a scheduled workshop, so we all cannot attend, but I will tell you that I think that what we heard at the national level is mirroring what we're doing now at the state level, and I think that if you don't think it affects our kids, that you're sticking your head in the sand. And I think that I appreciate the Texas PTA's efforts in this and our council's willingness to help host this event at the Hebron Ninth Grade Center. So I would encourage everybody to sign up. It is on a sign-up basis, the 75 seats. So, moving on. Monthly financial report, Mr. Ball.
Thank you, Ms. Sells, Dr. Rogers, members of the board. This item is the monthly financial reports. This is the financial statement for the 4 months ended December 31, 2019. One thing I would point out on that is these statements reflect the budget amendment that the board approved in conjunction with the approval of the purchase of the buses and SUVs that we have ordered. And so you can look on the schedule of revenues and expenditure summary and see transfers in toward the bottom of the general fund section there for $28,466,556. And you see an amount very similar to that, although not quite the same, under the Function 34, Pupil Transportation. And so what we did is we made a zero bottom line budget amendment there with the approval of the board to increase the budget authority for the amount of the purchase order for the buses and the SUVs, and the identical amount was listed below as a transfers in, and the intention of that is for those funds to come from the proceeds from sale of land, and that way the general fund really will show no bottom line impact when and if all those things come to pass. And so that's probably the single most noteworthy thing on that schedule. And then the bond reports for the 2008 and 2017 bond program are listed. The investment report, really the thing to note there is it just indicates we're entering in, as of December 31, that is the deadline for calendar year taxpayers to pay their property taxes and receive a tax deduction. So you can see the total investment and cash balances there were in the $667 million range, and of course then it'll top out at the end of January when we show next month's financial statements, and then we'll start spending that off because the collections will taper off significantly. So I think those are the highlights of the report, and certainly be happy to address any questions the board might have.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Ball? Ms. Prosnick?
I'm not going to let you go without asking. Are we on track?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think the expenditures will show that it costs about $38.6 million a month to operate the district, and so we are right on track in the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to our action items. Consider approval of internal risk assessment audit areas. Dr. Rapp?
Yes, I've submitted this item as a result of the work session, and I'll defer to the board chair and for the board committee conversation about the item.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. I think you all talked about this last Monday while Ms. Lasan and I were gone. Just as a reminder, we hired a firm to kind of look at an efficiency audit to identify areas and score them and places that we might be able to find some opportunities for financial savings or efficiency. These were not intended to be audits, gotcha audits or anything like that. They were just really around efficiency and financial benefits. The 5 areas identified by the board committee were human resources or employee services, PEMS, construction, governance, student services, meaning at a priority level. As we talked about this as a committee, and I think you guys talked about it as well, we came down to 2 areas. I'm really going to say 3, but 2 to start with. One is that we would do an audit in the areas of employee services and PEMS. Now, this is based on the scoring factor that I think you guys saw last week. A thought for consideration would be that we move forward with the next step is a committee. We would work with procurement to request from the 3 firms statement of work. These are professional services, so it's not really an area where we can look at the financials around it, but we would ask them to provide us a statement of work in these areas. Now, the way that we would ask that question will be somewhat give us some indication of their proficiency, or the way that we ask it in the way that they respond. And so we would evaluate their expertise based on that. We would come back to you as a board, to the board and recommend when we would start those. So here's what I would say. If we approve those items tonight, meaning that we're just approving that we're going to go to the next step, we would meet as a committee very quickly. And while this is a board committee, obviously we'll work very closely with Dr. Rapp and Mr. Martin. Once we receive those back, the committee would meet, though, by itself and evaluate the statement of work. and then make a recommendation back to the board. So you would be involved in what we do and when. It's really probably likely that these are things that we would do next year. Potentially. It depends, right? It depends on what the statement of works come back with. So I just, before anybody gets kind of wrapped up in budget and that type of thing, I mean, recognize we put a lot of money in our fund balance this year, but we are going to look at the statement of works, and the statement of work, we're going to look at workload. I mean, PEMS and employee services are going to take time from our campuses, and we think that there's a real value in a return for us in those two areas, especially with the transition employee service, but even with PEMS and looking at some efficiency. The reason I'm adding another element here is that I think there's, you see this in the timeline that or I think you talked about it last week, governance. And we talk a lot about governance, and this would be kind of starting with policy audits. Do we have the right policies in place? These would be things that the state requires of us and TASB puts together, and currently Mr. Cronover reviews those. We make sure we're compliant. They would be local policies. As a matter of fact, a local policy is the fact that we established a board committee to audit committee. That became a local policy. It would be that kind of governance initially. And then we would look at what the next level of governance would be. So we would like to have, if we could, the latitude to ask the providers to give us 3 statements of work. And I want to be clear, that does not mean we're asking for that budget or for all that to start this year. We would come back to you again and make a recommendation, but we think there's some value in looking at all 3 of those, at least from a, can I say that, Craig, a procurement perspective and a scope of work perspective. Does that make sense?
And your committee members agree? Okay. Which we'll need, so this motion, though, you'll need to...
Yeah, you can amend it.
You can make the motion as you amend it. Is there any, and I'm going to allow for discussion prior to that motion being made, so we don't have to get on that of those ladders of Robert's rules. And so is there any other discussion at this time? Ms. Cox?
Madam President, I'd just like some clarification. So it was my understanding when you decided to have committees for the finance and then the audit committee, we all were selected to serve on those committees. But from listening to Mr. Miller, and I'm fine with that, but it sounds like the audit committee is now the long-term committee that will be serving through the process. So I just want clarification on that, and what does that look like, that no other board member will serve on that committee, or they will be the permanent audit committee for the longevity that we do audits?
Ms. Cox, that's a great point, because what we talked about was at one of our next meetings is establishing a charter for the committee. So the committee would be long-standing, or as long as the board wants, but we would not be long-standing members. So we would figure out a way to rotate members into the committee, similar to what we did in the past. But it would not, it's not intended that the 3 of us would stay on the committee until the work effort is done in the next 3 to 5 years. Absolutely. In fact, Ms. Prosnick raised this to me this week, that we need to get together and establish a charter so that it's clear that we are not sitting as this kind of interim entity for a long period of time, just the 3 of us. So
the charter would also establish rules on communication, whether that's communication from the committee to the board or the auditor to the, and so there's a whole host of things that we need to discuss and establish for the board, and it would be based on board approval.
And I think because they've gone through this process to this point, they're best at the knowledge of what that charter should look like and what those things are that have come up to this point that need to be addressed in that charter moving forward.
And the board will approve the charter. I want to make that very clear, that we can come up with the rules and so forth, but we would bring it before you, and you could certainly give input, vote to approve it or disapprove it at that point in time.
And I would like to see it as a workshop at a workshop, of course. Of course, that wouldn't be brought just for consent or action at this. It would follow those steps that we follow.
And I would say, I mean, it's a really fair point. I don't think we want to be considered kind of this regulated entity, the three of us, and I would say we probably, in retrospect, as the chair, I should have established a charter that we could communicate with you guys, right? That would give that roll-off plan, et cetera. We got into, looking at with the hiring of the efficiency entity, what would be next would be, who are the, kind of like we do with the construction manager at risk, who would be available, who would be the right companies to bid on these things. And so, again, Jenny, you called me this week and said, we got to establish a charter on this so that we have a way to roll new members in and help everybody understand it, so, if that's fair.
Any other questions or comments? Want to make the motion?
Yep. I move that the board approve employee services, PEMS, and governance as audit areas as discussed at the February 3rd work session.
Do I have a second? Ms. Prosnick? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda, consider order calling for 2020 Board of Trustees general election for place 6 and 7. Would someone like to make that motion? Ms. Timish.
I move that the board approve the order calling for a general trustee election to be held on Saturday, May 2nd, 2020, to fill place 6 and place 7 on the LISD Board of Trustees.
Do I have a second? Ms. Prosnick? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 10:02 p.m.